The first thing I saw was her reflection in the water. I almost didn't recognize E.T., just a soft outline trembling across the blue tiles of the hotel pool, bending with every ripple like a memory that refused to stay still. But when I looked up, really looked up, my breath caught in my chest. It was her, my ex-wife's mother, standing there in a pale sun hat, hands folded gently in front of her, staring at me as if I were a ghost that had risen from the deep end. In that moment, the air felt heavier than the humid afternoon heat. I hadn't seen anyone from that side of my life in 3 years. 3 years since the divorce papers were signed. 3 years since the house had gone silent. 3 years since I had walked away believing I had lost not just a marriage, but an entire future. Before I tell you what happened next, take a second. If you believe in kindness, in forgiveness, in second chances that come when you least expect them, make sure you like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that sometimes life circles back in ways we never see coming. I had come to that hotel alone. It was supposed to be a short business retreat, nothing more. A few days to clear my head, close a deal, maybe sit by the water and convince myself that I had moved on. The truth was, I hadn't. I carried the weight of my failed marriage everywhere. It sat on my shoulders when I woke up. It echoed in the quiet of my apartment at night. Even when I laughed with coworkers or forced myself on dates, there was always this hollow space inside me shaped exactly like what I had lost. Her name was Sarah. We had met young, too young maybe. We had loved each other with the kind of intensity that makes you believe love alone is enough. But love, I learned, is not always enough when pride grows louder than patience. We fought over small things until they became mountains. We stopped listening. We started keeping score. And one day, we both realized we were living in the same house, but standing on opposite sides of an invisible wall. Her mother, Mrs. Rahman, had always been kind to me. She treated me like a son from the day I married her daughter. She would send food when she thought I looked tired. She remembered my birthday when I forgot my own. When the divorce happened, I never reached out to her. I felt ashamed, like I had failed not just Sarah but the entire family. And now here she was, by the pool, sunlight glinting off her glasses, looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. My first instinct was to leave, to grab my towel and disappear before she could say anything. I didn't know if she blamed me. I didn't know if she hated me. I didn't know if seeing me would reopen wounds for her the same way it did for me. But my feet felt rooted to the ground. She walked toward me slowly, carefully, as if approaching something fragile. I stood up automatically, my heart pounding louder than the distant splash of children playing in the shallow end. Up close, I could see that she had aged. There were more lines around her eyes, and her smile, when it finally appeared, carried a softness that almost undid me. She told me she never expected to see me here. I told her the same. The conversation started awkwardly, with polite questions about work and health. But beneath those simple words was a current of something deep—I regret, nostalgia, unfinished emotions that had nowhere to go. Then she said something that stopped me cold. She said Sarah still kept the old photo album, the one from our first year of marriage. She said she had seen it on the coffee table just last week. Hearing that felt like someone had reached into my chest and squeezed my heart. I had spent years convincing myself that Sarah had erased me from her life, that she had packed away every memory of us into a box labeled mistake. But the idea that she still held on to those photos, it changed something inside me. I asked, carefully, how she was doing. Mrs. Rahman hesitated before answering. She said Sarah had thrown herself into work. She had become more successful than ever. Promotions, recognition, independence. But she also said there was a quietness in her that hadn't been there before. A loneliness she tried to hide behind ambition. I didn't know what to say, because I knew that loneliness. I lived with it every day. We ended up sitting by the edge of the pool together. The water shimmered between us like a mirror reflecting the past. She told me she had never believed we were beyond saving. She said she had watched two stubborn people let their hurt speak louder than their love. That sentence stayed with me. Two stubborn people. Not one villain, not one victim. Just two people who stopped choosing each other. For the first time in 3 years, I allowed myself to think about my own mistakes without defensiveness. I remembered the nights I chose work over listening. The times I let my pride win arguments that didn't need to exist. The way I assumed she would always be there, no matter how distant I became. Regret is a heavy thing, but it can also be clarifying. Mrs. Rahman reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. She showed me a recent picture of Sarah. She was standing by a window, sunlight on her face, a faint smile that looked practiced rather than natural. She looked strong. She looked beautiful. And she looked alone. Something inside me shifted from fear to courage. I realized that for 3 years I had avoided reaching out not because I didn't care but because I cared too much. I was terrified of rejection. Terrified that she had truly moved on. Terrified that I would confirm what I already believed about myself, that I had ruined the best thing that ever happened to me. But sitting there by the pool, with her mother beside me, I understood something I hadn't before. Silence had not protected either of us. It had only prolonged the distance. Mrs. Rahman didn't pressure me. She didn't tell me what to do. She simply said that sometimes life gives us unexpected meetings for a reason. And then she stood up, touched my shoulder gently, and said she hoped I found peace, whatever that meant for me. She walked away slowly, leaving me alone with the water and my racing thoughts. I stayed there long after she left. The sun began to set, turning the sky orange and gold. Families packed up their towels. The pool grew quiet, and I sat there replaying every moment of my marriage, not with anger this time, but with honesty. I realized that I had been waiting for a sign, some grand, undeniable signal that it was safe to try again. But maybe life doesn't work that way. Maybe the sign is simply the courage to take a step. That night, back in my hotel room, I stared at my phone for almost an hour. Her number was still saved. I had never deleted it. My thumb hovered over her name, trembling. I imagined all the possible outcomes. She might not answer. She might answer and sound cold. She might tell me she was engaged. She might tell me never to call again. But there was one possibility that scared me more than all the others, that I would never know. So I called. The ring felt like it lasted forever. Each second stretched thin with anticipation. And then, finally, she answered. Her voice was cautious at first, surprised. I could hear the distance of 3 years in the silence between our words. But I told her about the pool, about running into her mother, about how it made me realize that I had never truly apologized, not for the little things that built up into something bigger. I didn't blame. I didn't justify. I simply owned my part. There was a long pause on the other end. And then she admitted something that broke and healed me at the same time. She said she had been waiting for me to call, not every day, not obsessively, but somewhere in her heart, she had hoped I would. We talked for hours, not about getting back together, not about the past in a way that reopened wounds. We talked about growth, about therapy, about learning how to listen, about the loneliness we both felt but never admitted. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't a fairy tale reunion. It was two adults acknowledging that love had once existed and maybe, just maybe, still did. Over the next few weeks, we met for coffee, then dinner, then long walks where we spoke honestly about our fears. It wasn't easy. There were moments when old habits tried to resurface, but this time, we noticed them. We paused. We chose differently. One evening, months later, we found ourselves sitting across from each other in the same park where I had once proposed. The air felt lighter. There was no pressure, no expectations. Just a quiet understanding that we were building something new, not reviving the old version, but creating a better one. And it all traced back to that unexpected afternoon by the pool. Sometimes, life doesn't shout. It whispers. It places someone from your past right in front of you and waits to see if you'll run or if you'll stay. If this story has touched your heart even a little, please take a moment to like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps keep stories like this alive, and you never know who might need to hear them today. Before I finish, I have a special request. Comment the word second chance below if you believe that people can grow, change, and find their way back to what truly matters. A year after that poolside meeting, Sarah and I stood together in a small, quiet ceremony. Not a grand wedding, not a public spectacle, just close family, a simple promise, and the understanding that love is not about perfection, it's about persistence. As I held her hand, I glanced at Mrs. Rahman sitting in the front row, tears in her eyes. Our eyes met for a brief second, and we both smiled. No words were needed. That unexpected encounter had been more than coincidence. It had been a turning point. Life will break you sometimes. It will humble you. It will force you to confront parts of yourself rather ignore. But it will also, if you're paying attention, offer you moments of grace. All you have to do is be brave enough to answer when it calls.